So there's a new Fantastic Four First Steps trailer out, and a lot of your usual suspects online seem to be pretty excited about it.
Let's go!
I, for one, remain indifferent, and I have to ask the question, is the general public interested in another Fantastic Four reboot? This property hasn't exactly set the world on fire cinematically when it comes to capturing the imagination of the general public. So is there anything in this trailer to make them care this time around? Or is it coming off like just another standard MCU movie in the same way that it is to me? Let's discuss. Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Let's go, baby! Fantastic Four trailer in full effect. Everyone in this movie looks ripped right out of the comics. We are so back. Say the line, Ben. Please say the line. They're making us wait. I can't wait until Ben says the line in the final act. It's going to be peak. When did we get a fine-ass Silver Surfer? I'm gonna need y'all to hear me out. Galactus is going to be a generational villain in this movie. I can already tell from his aura. Vin Diesel would be proud. This film is all about family. July 25th, we will be seated. So a cinema-centric X account posted a behind-the-scenes vignette of Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man film recently, with the caption, "They just don't make them like this anymore." A statement that I happen to agree with. But more than anything else, this post reminded me of a time when comic book movies felt important, when they actually felt like an event.
It's been 84 years.
Now you could argue when in fact that feeling went away, if it went away for you personally. And if you went on to ask 10 different people when they think the genre took a nosedive, you would probably get 10 different answers. To me, the genre died when these films stopped being filmmaker-centric and started being studio-driven creatively. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, to me, remains the shining example of how to adapt these characters properly while simultaneously allowing a talented filmmaker to put their own spin on things with a unique vision. Now, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is also a cautionary tale because once those first two films were a success, that's when the studio started to get more involved, trying to insert themselves into the equation because now they had more invested, and that's exactly how we end up with a movie like Spider-Man 3 that felt very messy.
That makes sense.
This trend of the studio micromanaging these projects is precisely what ended up killing them. Well, that and of course the oversaturation of the market with mediocre or even bad content. And all of this was embraced by Marvel Studios in the MCU, and it's precisely why interest in their brand is at an all-time low. These projects no longer feel special. They feel indistinguishable from each other, both from a creative and from a quality standpoint. Even the films that have been well received initially in the modern MCU are quickly forgotten, or most times don't hold up after further viewings. And in a lot of ways, I feel like Marvel Studios wants Fantastic Four First Steps to be the fresh start that this brand needs. And based on some of the things that I've heard about Fantastic Four, and the way that it was made, it feels like they are at least acknowledging some of the criticisms that have been coming their way.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
I mean, we've heard things about them trying to incorporate practical effects more so in this movie than they normally would. And that's something that I'm always going to support, because I feel like practicality in the creation of these movies is something that they are lacking and have been lacking for a long time. It's hard to connect with characters in a story that is mostly being brought to life with green screens and terrible CGI. So in that aspect, I would like to be more excited about Fantastic Four First Steps. And some people are even telling me that I should be excited based on my love of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, saying things to me like, well, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are doing something similar. embrace it. First of all, I just want to point out that a lot of the people who told me there was nothing wrong with the modern MCU are now telling me to embrace change. Well, my question is, why would we need change if everything was all right? Further proof that even your most delusional fanboy knows the truth about this content.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
If you ask me right now if I see a massive difference between previous MCU movies and what I'm seeing in the Fantastic Four trailers, I would say no. Does it give me a fraction of the feelings that I had watching a vignette of a movie from 20 plus years ago? No. Now, to be fair, nostalgia plays into that, my love of the character of Spider-Man plays into that, and my current state of superhero fatigue also plays into that. But as I always say, regardless of all of this, I am a film fan first and foremost. And all it's really going to take is for one of these movies to show me something that I've never seen before in order for me to get interested again. And it's really that simple. We need to move away from the formulaic nature in which these films are created if we are going to get audiences excited again. And I'm sorry, I just do not see that level of change coming from the Fantastic Four trailers.
We ain't found shit.
Listen, I know that this movie supposedly broke ticket pre-sale records and had websites crashing left and right like it was Y2K. And this is proof enough for some people that the MCU is back and that interest is at an all-time high, but I am still skeptical. And I'm going to continue to be skeptical until they give me a reason not to be. I've seen a lot of tribalism over the past several hours with people propping this movie up because they want Superman to fail. Or people propping up Superman because they want Fantastic Four to fail. I don't really give a fuck about any of that. To me, that just shows the complacent nature of most audiences today. Because a lot of them are afraid to be critical, a lot of them have agendas when talking about cape shit, and they don't really call things the way that they see them. And again, both of these movies could turn out to be decent or even good. I'm not dismissing that possibility. What I'm saying is that everything I've seen from them up until this point makes me very skeptical that they actually will be.
Not impressed.
As far as the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer goes, I still see a heavy reliance on CGI, some that looks better than others. I think the way that the film looks, everything from the way that it was shot to its retro aesthetic, is probably one of the only things that look decent about it to me at this point. To me, parts of it do look like an actual movie as opposed to a video game cutscene, and that is refreshing. Is it good enough to save this movie overall? That remains to be seen. Casting is still a real problem for me with this movie. The Thing's voice sounds off. I'm still not convinced of Pedro Pascal as Reed. Joseph Quinn as Johnny feels like one of those decisions similar to Pedro Pascal, where he was picked because he is one of the it guys of the moment, and not because he was the best person for the job. The running bit throughout the trailer about the Thing not saying his iconic line is a very MCU thing to me. And I'm sure some people will eat it up. There are people out there who will refer to this film as peak cinema simply because the Thing is going to eventually say the line that everyone knows he is going to say. It very much feels like a typical MCU bit trying to appeal to the least common denominator, while also simultaneously poking fun at the campiness of it all. It's just something that we've seen 1,000 times before in this franchise.
He said it! He said it!
I also strongly believe that including a more traditional version of the character would have made the Silver Surfer's introduction in the trailer and eventually in the movie that much more impactful. To me, it's still jarring to use a less notable, less interesting version of the character in their first appearance in the MCU. I am kind of interested to see how they pull off Galactus, because it has been a somewhat difficult character to adapt to live action. Based on all accounts, he is ripped right out of the comics from a design perspective. I'm more interested to see how he is presented as a character because the MCU has a history of having villains that feel underdeveloped and underwhelming. They are really trying to sell the family dynamic in this movie as they should be, but as always, execution is everything. You cannot haphazardly manufacture things like chemistry, or genuine dialogue and relationships between them. I have concerns that the team and family dynamic in this film will ultimately feel forced. Concerns that are amplified by the reports saying how hard it was to cast these roles in the first place. It's hard not to feel like a lot of actors turned them down, possibly because the material wasn't up to par. It should also be noted that there is also a chance that this film does end up being decent or even good, and yet still the general audience simply doesn't care anyway. And Marvel Studios has no one to blame but themselves if in fact that does end up happening. And it will only reinforce my theory that they really need something that's going to blow people away if they are going to change the perception of the MCU as well as the comic book movie genre overall.
Y'all be cool. Nah.